Hey Ben, can you hear me now? Hey Ben, aha. Hey Ben, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. I think I know. I think I know what happened. Last time it didn't pop up, but this time it popped up and said, "Do you want to invite Ben in?" And we did. So now we are live.
Awesome. Good
Um,
deal.
cool. And there's 10 people watching so far. So let's see how it goes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, yeah. So let me flip this camera on. Let's talk about some of the stuff that for people that are listening, I don't really know Ben. This is kind of new for both of us. We're kind of feeling it out, trying to feel some new technology. And I'm trying to talk to traders about how they kind of moved into trading and what they're up to, and how they get into it. And Ben, I understand. Let's talk about how you got into how you got into trading in the first place. You're from Minneapolis, right? You starting the floor
Yep.
up there?
Yep, I am. I started at the floor of the grain exchange before the when they actually had a pit back in around '06, '07.
Okay.
I had a mutual friend of the family, that kind of a neighbor who was probably 10 to 15 years older than me, that was trading at that time. He had done it for a couple of years and had done it pretty well.
Yep.
And he invited me to. I was kind of looking for jobs, and my first job out of college, I was in the mortgage industry, and I didn't really. I thought there'd be more problem solving involved as opposed to sales. So I
Yeah.
was kind of actively looking around for something more along the lines of analytical thought. And he told me to come just check out the exchange. I came in that first day, walked around the pit, talked to some people. I was actually offered a job right on the spot by a firm,
Oh yeah.
and started the next day. So that was probably in '06. So the timing couldn't have been better for myself, given what happened in '08. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of from then on. The rest was kind of history, as they say, and I've been there ever since, in one way or another. From the bottom all the way to independent, local by the end.
Tell me something about MGEX. I mean, everyone knows they've got wheat up there, but is that basically it now? Is there anything else? What was there when you were down there? What else did they actually trade down there?
They've attempted to launch products over the years. Some before my time, some during my time, and one just recently actually that kind of failed and got left by the wayside. It was a volatility product that, for whatever reason, didn't quite launch. But we've been wheat. The wheat contract, the hard red spring wheat contract, is kind of the only contract that's ever stuck.
Yep.
I know before my time they tried to introduce like a shrimp contract, I believe. I
Okay.
don't know the exact specifics. It was like black Gulf shrimp or white Gulf. I don't know exactly what it was, but they tried that. They've tried some really odd things. Even in my time, they tried to launch a movie futures contract, which
Really?
I remember at the time when they tried to launch it, thinking anybody that's going to take the other side of one of these trades has got to be the craziest SOB in the world, because
Yeah, that's pretty
I
out
can't
there.
imagine who's on the other side of your trade when you're trading a movie futures contract. So they tried that. And then, like I said, just recently, they tried to launch a VIX, or a volatility index type contract, which for whatever reason was kind of squashed by the powers that be and the regulators, and it never did quite take. And that was actually launched by the current group, or attempted to be launched by the current group, who's in talks of I don't know if you're familiar. There's a buyout on the table right
Yeah.
now at the Grain
Yeah.
Exchange. So that's the same group, that Miami Holdings, I believe. Or I don't know if I have the
Yeah.
name
Yeah. I've
exact,
seen that.
but that's the group. So
The Gulf shrimp contract. Now, I'm taking a stab here. Was that because there's a lot of Gulf shrimp that comes in through Duluth, through the
I
Great Lakes or
have
something?
no idea. This would have
Seems like
been.
a strange location for a
Yeah,
shrimp
it really
contract. I
does.
don't know.
It
Maybe
really
maybe
does.
crawfish, but maybe not shrimp.
It really does. I don't know exactly the rhyme or reason why they chose that product. I imagine someone got in somebody's ear and thought it'd be a good idea, and they attempted to launch it. But as you know, launching a new contract is one of the most difficult things you can possibly do,
Yeah.
because for all intents and purposes, the from what I've seen in my short career is, price discovery can be a great thing for the market as a whole, but it seems to me that when you're a producer of said product, a lot of these people that produce products don't really necessarily want price discovery. So
Hmm.
unless you can get your producers on board to, in fact, have the price discovery in the contract, it's very hard to do, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what we've seen from our side. There's always speculators willing to do it, and the end users absolutely love it. To get the product more efficiently and priced more efficiently, but it's just hard to get those producers to kind of join in and start doing it. And
Yeah.
unless they're already doing it, it's kind of hard to start.
All right. That makes sense. So what? How did you move upstairs? What took you upstairs? What was your motivation to go upstairs? Why did you?
I I assume you mean at the grain exchange.
Well, yeah. Why did you flip from a floor trader to an upstairs trader? I mean, I know obviously everything with electronic, but when did you move upstairs, and what was kind of your? How did you do that? How'd you make the
Yeah, no, that's an interesting story. Well, I guess maybe not so interesting, but basically it was I was forced upstairs. Our pit was closed. I started in about '06, '07, '08 were very good years, and I kind of moved through the jobs rather quickly.
Yeah.
Probably more so a result of the market being incredibly good as opposed to my abilities. It wasn't
Right.
like I was some hot shot kid who knew everything. I just happened to come in '06 and realized that the faster I could get into the pit, the better off I'd be. And as you know, in '08 when we had $25 spring wheat, there was a lot of edges to be had, and
Sure.
marginal money that wasn't worth other people's time to deal with, that certainly was worth mine.
All right.
So in '08, in December, they gave us an announcement the pit was closing. I actually had moved to Puerto Rico in January for about 3 or 4 months to kind of just decompress and figure out what I wanted to do next with my life.
Yeah.
I kind of threw out some applications at that time with some different entities in the business and realized then I was probably unemployable, perhaps.
All right.
And I think that goes true for a lot of independent traders. That
Yeah.
the skill set I had was very unique, and it was basically trying to make money,
Right.
and you take a lot of risk and you do all these things. And so when I came back, I talked to a couple guys that had transitioned to the floor. My broker at the time was a good friend of mine who actually became partners in a hedge fund later. I don't know if you know Austin Damiani, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah. I
was
do know
he was
Austin.
my personal broker. He was up there working. I decided that I just come up there and rent an office space. And back then there was maybe 10 or 15 guys that kind of rented desk space up
Okay.
there and tried to give it a go. And since then it's kind of filtered down and kind of been, you lose one or two a year here and there. And I think we're at the point now where there may only be 5 or 6 of us left, including the brokers. So it's
Yeah.
it's a pretty desolate area up there now. But I still actually hold a desk up there for through into the fall. I'm going to let it go over the winter, but that's more personal stuff with my kids in school and such. But
Sure.
and then with the buyout, that's all fluid. So we'll see what happens. But from my understanding, they should be up there a couple more years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's funny you mention Austin. He's a good guy. He did a blog for TT a couple months ago. Great guy. I enjoyed working with him on that.
Yeah, very knowledgeable. One of the more knowledgeable wheat people you'll meet in the industry, that's for sure. He's a wealth of knowledge, and especially in the spring wheat industry.
Yeah. Crack photographer too. Now you mentioned especially in the spring wheat industry, you've kind of moved on from wheat a little bit. It seems like you're trading the metals a little bit and trading some other stuff. What brought you into the markets, and why do you like going into these other ones?
Well, it's funny. Me and Austin have talked about this in detail, and some people think that you kind of stick with what you know, and I do think there's something to be said with that. But I also think there's something to be said with finding, for what a bull market, and
Yeah.
and I do believe trading. Like I said in '07, '08, I was trading in an incredible bull market, and if everything went wrong, you just buy it and wait. and,
Yeah.
and I know that's a dumbed down way of putting it, but it really does help you out with a lot of mistakes. And I saw what was going on in the macro economy, and I just thought, as much as I do think we will have inflation, and I do think that the eggs will get a um, a floor put into them as a result. I think that the metals and the currencies, things that don't necessarily cost as much to store, will
Yeah.
probably outperform those. And
Okay.
so I've just thought that there's going to be demand coming into those markets that we haven't seen in quite some time, probably in my lifetime. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about them. I jumped in kind of head first and really did well the first couple months. I was trading silver and I was trading a lot of leverage products, and we had that pop from about 19 to 23 bucks, and I did manage to ride that really well. Unfortunately, like all trades, I got out too early, and since then it's kind of been chopping, and it's a little more of a reality check. But I do think that eventually we'll take another leg higher at one point, and
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be on board again. But we'll see.
I hope you're in silver right now. It's up another 72 and a quarter. It's up
You
two and
know,
three
I,
quarter
I
percent.
do have a little exposure. I've been trading a lot of equity, like mining companies, kind of
Okay.
these junior miners they call. I don't have any leveraged stuff right now. I'm waiting kind of for one more pullback, but that'll be kind of that'll be an interesting market, I think, going forward. I think the silver and gold and maybe Bitcoin, even to a point, will be some of the more interesting markets we see in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, silver's. I mean, we just got back up through 27 bucks. As I'm looking at the screen right now, so it's
Nice,
doing
good,
well.
good to
19.
see.
Good to see. Congratulations, by the way.
well, I don't know if that's good or bad. It's like all these things, and we were talking with egg products, and I think producers always want to see corn go higher and wheat go higher, but if it's an inflationary environment, is it going high enough to keep up? That's kind of the question. So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you see these moves like silver going higher, it's like, oh, that's great as long as you own it, but is it keeping up with everything else? Your cost of living surely is going to go up, and
Right.
everything else. So it's all
Well, now,
relative, but in the short term, it feels good.
now I want to talk to you about rail a little bit because I know silver lagged gold for like 2 years, and now it's
Hmm.
been outperforming it. And I know, like gold divided by silver, that ratio. You know, you go back a year and a half ago, people said, at 80 bucks, it was incredibly rich, incredibly high. It should be back around 50. It ran up to like 128, and now it's back down to like 72. Do you follow that ratio at all? And do you really have any belief in it as an indicator?
I do follow it a little bit more through other people who kind of are
You hear
specialists in
about
the
it?
area.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean that is, as stupid as it sounds, that is one of the beautiful things about Twitter is I've had exposure to so many different financial minds and things, and you do have to filter through a lot of the whitewash or kind of you know misinformation, but there's some great
Yeah.
information out there, and that is one of the things that I just started kind of watching back in March and April is that GSR, and that is kind of what led me into putting on a large silver position back then. And I still haven't done much with gold, and I probably will if that resets a little bit. But like
Yeah.
you said, it's been interesting to watch nonetheless.
Cool.
Yeah, and I
Cool.
think it'd be interesting too to as I've been following them, it amazes me at times for how much these products are supposed to be non-correlated. Maybe not so much gold and silver, but something like silver and Bitcoin or gold and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating that um, they're not all that uncorrelated when things are going well. You get these minor moves lower or minor moves higher. I think there's a ton of correlation. Now, I think there'll be times when you have these vicious down moves or up moves where the all correlation goes out the window. But those seem to be, few and far between these days. And I think it says more about the structure of our financial system than anything. We have so much leverage and so many products that are all interconnected, and all of a sudden margin calls start coming in. Whether it be the equity market and people start
Yeah.
selling this or that, and people just kind of start dumping things off the ship that's sinking no matter what it is. And so
Yeah. It's
especially in the down times, I think that there'll be some tremendous opportunities kind of watching those relationships.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's been some weird correlations that have gone on with even with Bitcoin and gold and Bitcoin and dollar and things like that. It's like what's really going on here? What's the connection? Where's the real safe haven? What's the risk on? What's the risk off in this world? Because
Totally,
they
totally,
they, they, they were flip flopping all over the place. Like I don't know which one to even go to anymore. If it's a calamity,
totally.
am I supposed to go to gold? Am I supposed to go to Bitcoin? Do I buy both? Do I buy dollars? I don't. Who knows?
Totally. It's beginning to feel like one of those environments where there really isn't a safe haven. I mean, you could make an argument. that cash is your safe haven, and it always
Yeah.
has been. But is it anymore? You know, if we get into an inflationary environment, now you've lost that safe haven. So what safe haven do we really have anymore is the
Yeah.
$1 million question. And
You know,
inevitably something will come back up, you know, if it goes lower. But
yeah.
you don't. There's so much correlation now that it's very nuanced and very interesting. And like anything, timing is just key with all that stuff.
Yeah, I wrote something about inflation yesterday, and I still got a strong feeling that inflation is much worse, and it's getting worse than people seem to think. And bonds are starting to buy into that. I mean, bonds, treasuries, 30s are off 26 right now.
Oh wow, yeah,
But and you
that'll
know
be an
they
interesting
took a
thing
big
to
hit
watch.
yesterday. Yeah, because it's you look at commodity inflation. I looked at like the Bloomberg Commodity Index the other day, and it's recovered like 65-70% of its loss for the year. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just been going higher since like middle of March. Because you look at a lot of the grains have been going up since March, the metals have been going up since March. A lot of that stuff's
Hmm.
going up, and a lot of stuff that people just hits them in a daily pocketbook. You know, gas prices, oil,
Totally,
you know,
totally. You know,
cotton, sugar, all these things, stuff that people are basing in your general commodity basket. You're going on shopping for a week. Those things are going up, and
hmm
you combine that with the fact that unemployment's still at 10%. It's got to just be a really bad double whammy right now. You know.
absolutely. You know, and we've also been in, you know, a long bull market here in the bond market that um, the Fed has been very active, as you know, with rates and stuff. Now, if and when rates start to turn and the market starts demanding higher rates, they're going to have their hands tied.
Yeah.
And that's when I think we see some real inflation where things are going to get really parabolic.
Yeah.
So I think
I absolutely agree.
that's the key to watch. I think if in fact the real rates in the world start turning, look out because it could be really interesting going forward. Then,
Yeah, I kind of get a feeling that once we get through the election, the rates are going to start going higher pretty quick after that.
yeah,
So,
you know, and there's always going to be the Fed, and they're going to try and do what they can, but at some point, you know, the market's going to demand what the market demands, and that's when I
yeah,
think it real
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, the old Chicago way. They used to say that it was the pit that was really driving Washington to a certain extent because even though Washington was saying rates going lower, you know, the guys in Chicago kept selling bonds, so they were pushing them higher anyway.
Yep, totally.
Um, well, good. You mentioned Bitcoin just a little bit. So are you actively trading Bitcoin now at all, or you just kind of like playing
Yeah,
around with
yeah.
it?
No, I'm very active with the all, not all cryptocurrencies. I picked out a couple that I trade.
Yeah,
I trade a lot of Bitcoin. I've tried to trade the leverage product through the CME, and I don't do as well on that. I'm an old school kind of crypto trader where I have the actual, um, you know, the crypto platforms, and then I
yeah,
have, you know, the keys that I can store them on and such. When I get a balance that I feel uncomfortable keeping on a website, I'll pull some off. But
right.
my crypto strategy is pretty archaic. Basically, I do like owning Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin will be. I'm not one of these guys. I think Bitcoin's going to 100,000 or a million. I don't know that. I do think that it's kind of unpractical to expect people to walk around with a bag of gold or a bag of
Yeah,
silver and buy things. So
right.
I think there's a space in there for Bitcoin. I think it's really fascinating as far as transaction costs, how low they are, and I
Yeah,
think that in itself. And so even if it's just a currency, going forward, you probably want to own some. You know, it'd be much like owning the dollar or owning the yen or whatever. If you ever said that about the dollar, where the dollar is going to increase, you know, 10,000%, people would think you're crazy. But for some reason with Bitcoin, because of the moves we've seen, people don't think it's so crazy, and that's
yeah,
fine, and it could. But you know, my strategies are more um, I'm a with a product like that as opposed to the eggs where I don't mind owning it and I'm not trading it leveraged. I can basically just set out my capital, how much I want to buy in Bitcoin. I can put in price points appropriately on the way down and
right.
really buy it all the way down to zero. And then if I get like a $500, $1,000 uptick or whatever my
Yeah,
levels are, I can sell one and try and buy it back. So it's very archaic. I mean, it's a very basic strategy that I'm using with Bitcoin per se, but it's more about just accumulating it, and I'll try and buy a little more than I sell, and if I trade it enough, I can kind of get extra capital to buy more and more and more. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. It can be maddening at times,
yeah. I bet.
but it also it keeps me out of trouble. You know, for instance, when I first started doing this, I was trading it at about $400, and I bought 10 or 20 at 400, and that sounds great, and everybody gets dollar signs in their eyes, but the reality is I sold probably half of them at about $800. So it
Dang.
wasn't exactly like retirement money or anything
Yeah.
like that, but that's just kind of how I stay solvent and liquid, and have that cash to buy any sort of dips. And for all intents and purposes, I'm just basically a dip buyer at all. I like
Yeah.
Ethereum, I like Bitcoin. Um, I trade Litecoin a little bit too. That's kind of more of a buy and hold one for me. I think that has some long term prospects. And then I trade Bitcoin Cash too, which I don't trade that as much. I'm not super in love with the product, and this is all basically for more. My opinion on these products is more derived from people that I trust, and the crypto people that know a lot more about it than me. I'm more the
Sure.
financial side of it, where I trade it, and I just
So
try to figure out what product could be around in 10 years or 20 years. And I'm
so
least confident in Bitcoin Cash, basically.
are you using a few different crypto exchanges then, or where are you trading them at?
I trade through Gemini. I really
Okay.
like it. I think that I've tried a bunch over the years. I started with Coinbase. It took me about 2 months to realize what that operation was all about. And your buy orders, your sell orders are all market
Mhm.
orders. It's kind of a bucket shop. I don't want to say that, but they're taking the other side of every trade. And as a trader, that just drove me nuts not to be able to put in priced orders and
Yeah,
not
I've
have them
noticed.
sitting there. So I've tried that. I tried a couple others, but I've settled on Gemini. I've been very happy with it. It's been great, and it offers everything I need. I can put in priced orders. I can kind of come back and check it once a day, see what happens, see if I made anything. But it's been good. It's interesting with those cryptos, for the volatility that they have, and as a reputation. The reputation of their volatility, I think, is far outweighs the actual volatility. When I
Yeah.
first started trading these things, it was just awesome as far as the amount of money I had to um, deploy to get a book per se, of crypto, and then you could trade these moves that were 30-40% in like a day.
Yeah.
It was just awesome trading, and
Yeah.
it did take a lot of money to make money, and it's turning into more of kind of these mainstream products where you're starting to see this with everything, where it just takes more and more capital to put on these positions and kind of make money. And we're seeing that in cryptos as well. And I do think in the long term that'll be a good thing to get a little more, um, to kind of reduce the extreme volatility. And I like
Yeah.
the volatility as a trader, but as far as a product and mainstream usage, it can't have volatility much more than a currency, I think, to survive long term.
Yeah. Yeah. When TT first started going into crypto, it was, obviously naturally it came in because Bitcoin futures were at CME, and about the same time we were hooking up with some crypto exchanges as well too. But the volatility at that point was still 10-12% moves in a day was like nothing. It's like that was just
Totally.
going. It was just all over the place. Like this is just insane. I mean,
Totally.
obviously it's mellowed off quite a bit, but those are
Yeah.
those are mad crazy days.
Yeah. It was awesome. And one of the keys, I think, with those particular products was a majority of the people that owned it weren't traders. They were
Yeah.
buy and hold guys who just wanted to
Yeah.
own it. So for me to be one of the few people that had it, that was willing to trade it, was kind of new and different. And really most people didn't even know what the heck was going on. And
Yeah.
now you'll see, it's like anything. If there's money to be made trading it, people come. And now we have banks actively trading it. We have major players actively trading it, and
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of
But
it's really made it a lot harder and a
you
lot
you go
different.
you go back 2.5 years ago, and the concept of selling Bitcoin was just unheard of. So
Yeah,
it wasn't a trading instrument. People just buying it. There was no selling of Bitcoin. You just
yeah,
bought it basically, and then
exactly.
once the
And there
futures
was
came around, people understood leverage and hedging and things like that. It turned it around, and now it's turned into a great market. It's turned into a fantastic market. So
yeah, yeah.
enjoy getting in there a little bit. All right. Well, hey, this has been a good introduction. I've enjoyed talking. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
No, I think I think we kind of got most of it covered. I don't know if there's anything else that people want to hear me say, but yeah, it was fun talking to you. It was interesting to do this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks for working through it. I know we had some technical difficulty getting it going, but it was good talk. I'm going to see what I can do with it now with the recording. I might be able to put it up as a podcast now. I don't really know.
Okay.
I'm walking through new grounds right now. If at least I might be able to put it up on YouTube, maybe the
Okay.
podcast too. So we'll see. I'll let you know. And by the
Good.
way, I mistyped when I put the tweet out, so I called it "Love with Ben Wolke" instead of live. So we got that going for us. I love you, brother. All right.
All right, Patrick.
Take care, Ben.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
It's good talking to you. All right. Bye bye. Good luck today.
Thanks.